President Trump calling off a massive attack against Iran last night.
The commander-in-chief says the change comes amid progress with the regime.
Rebekah Castor is live in Washington with the details. Good morning, Rebekah.
Good morning, Charlie. This was set to be one of the largest bombing campaigns against Iran to date, but now the president is signaling a peace deal could be close. He wrote on Truth Social, the USA is locked and loaded and ready to go against Iran. Despite this, we have just been asked by Iran and other Middle Eastern countries to hold off any attack and that the perimeters of a deal has been agreed to. This would include the immediate, complete, and total opening of the Hormuz Strait and an end to Iran's nuclear threat. I have agreed to cancel the attack, subject to being able to rapidly make a deal. According to Axios, one of those Middle Eastern allies who asked President Trump to hold off on further strikes was the Saudi Crown Prince. The White House confirmed they spoke on the phone yesterday. And this comes after the U.S. and Saudi Arabia launched joint strikes against Iranian militias in Iraq last week. But now the Saudis and other partners in the region are pushing the U.S. and Iran to de-escalate. In an interview with Laura last night, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says it's because of President Trump that Tehran can no longer avoid consequences and may be ready to fold.
I don't think the Iranian regime has ever faced a president like President Trump, which is someone that actually takes action. You know, they got used to for 20 or 30 years, not just the U.S., but the broader world, allowing them to get away with things like lying, breaking deals, tricking people into agreements and so forth. The regime has to change. Their view is they don't want to just govern Iran. They want to govern the region. They want to export their revolution. That does have to change. And the only way you're going to change that is if you make the price of it too high for them to be able to pay.
Qatari mediators held separate talks with U.S., Iranian, and Omani officials yesterday on reopening the strait. Axios reports those talks made progress. Charlie, Laura, and Griff, back to you.
All right, Rebekah.
Thank you, Rebekah.
Thanks.
Overnight, President Trump pausing the strikes on Iran, revealing a rough outline for a deal. The president writing the immediate, complete, and total opening of the Strait of Hormuz and an end to Iran's nuclear threat. I have agreed for the future benefit of the world and likewise the survival of a successful and prosperous Iran to cancel the attack, subject to being able to rapidly make a deal. Joining us now is former National Security Council member, retired Vice Admiral Robert Harward. Thank you for joining us this morning. So where do you think things stand right now? Obviously, we have heard, we've seen President Trump both bombing Iran and then holding out hope that we might get a deal. Where are you on that?
Well, a couple things at play here. First, the politics. You can see how important the coalition is. This Saudi wanted a pause, and so we're going to accommodate. They are in the fight with us and reinforces why that partnership is so important. And again, time. The president can go back to strikes at any time he wants, but he's got to keep the pressure on. At this point, the financial pressure without any revenue going into the country adds to the pressure on the regime, and that's constant, regardless if he strikes or not. So time is on his hand, and as I said, he can strike again whenever he wants.
Well, obviously, Iran also realizes that there are, time. Obviously, they view it as time being on their side. We have elections coming up. And obviously, Americans are feeling similar squeeze at the gas pump. And so they're sort of playing this tit for tat game, sort of bumping the president along. Do you think that long term, though, do they understand that President Trump probably is not as concerned about the midterms as a normal president might be, and that he is really willing to go back to kinetic strikes?
The Iranian strategy hasn't changed at all. They're still playing the time game, as you mentioned. They're hoping political will dissipate, that the threat of the midterms causes the president to change his strategy, but I think they're seeing just the opposite. Just as the president has realized they're not going to negotiate. He's going to have to continue maintain pressure till they agree and capitulate, acknowledge that the straits are an international waterway and they're not going to threaten and then on top of that, hand over nuclear materials. So the president has been consistent with that. The Iranians have been consistent. And so the only response has to be additional pressure and putting as much pressure on the regime as possible. And while he may not be striking with kinetic activities of military force, there may be other actions at play here. You're seeing a cabinet member bring together the whole of government solutions. Can we shut down borders? Can we shut down airspace? Can we really increase the financial, and as you're seeing in this case with the Saudis, increase financial and political pressure on the government of Iran?
Right. Vice Admiral Robert Harward, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you this morning.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.